All right, well, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for being here at the State Operations Center. Mark Gillarducci, I'm Director of the Governor's Office of Emergency Services, and today we wanted to give you a update on the current fire situation across California and the massive coordinated efforts underway to protect our state. A couple things I want to start off with, though. First of all, I want to recognize all the impact that this has had to the community at large and the folks that have been evacuated from their homes. Our thoughts and are out with all of you. Our prayers are with you. We know it's a tough time, and we're all working to be able to address this in a timely manner. As well, our thoughts and prayers are with the two Galt police officers that were in a head-on auto accident yesterday. They were responding to the Calder fire as part of the law enforcement mutual aid, and both of them are in critical condition, and so we're thinking about them today as well. We continue to mobilize every resource to support these fires throughout the state. And specifically, after an extensive review of the damage today, in fact, this afternoon, Governor Newsom did request a presidential major disaster declaration to the president for individual assistance, public assistance, and hazard mitigation for the counties of Lassen, Nevada, Placer, Plumas, Shasta, Siskiyou, Tehama, and Trinity. It's just important to note that a presidential major disaster declaration, if approved, would provide assistance to eligible individuals in the impacted counties for programs and support, including housing assistance, food aid, unemployment assistance, counseling, medical services, and legal services. The declaration also would include public assistance, which is designed to assist state, tribal, and local governments with ongoing emergency response costs and recovery costs, including repairs and replacement of disaster-damaged facilities and infrastructure such as roads, schools, bridges, and utilities. And the declaration would also include hazard mitigation, which helps the state and local governments reduce the risk and impact from future disasters. The wildfires across the state have already caused extensive damage to residents and infrastructure, and we hope that this request will be moved through swiftly and we get information back from the White House as soon as possible. In addition, the governor has already proclaimed states of emergency to provide assistance and support in the following counties: Siskiyou, Lassen, Plumas, El Dorado, Butte, Tehama, Shasta, Trinity, Nevada, Placer, and Alpine, and has secured federal fire management assistance grants for El Dorado, Lassen, Plumas, Siskiyou, Trinity, Nevada, and Placer. These federal fire grants really are designed to enable local, state, and tribal agencies involved with responding to these fires to apply for reimbursement assistance and help mitigate the cost of fighting the fires. My colleagues from Cal Fire and the U.S. Forest Service will provide some more details specific on the fires in a moment. But I wanted to say that, as of today, we have more than 13,000 personnel from state, local, and federal agencies fighting these statewide fires. This includes over 1,000 engines, 257 hand crews, 337 bulldozers, 344 water tenders, 87 helicopters. Much of this through our robust mutual aid system, through the federal system, all the agencies coming together to be able to provide these assets. And I particularly want to thank all of our partners in local government, including the State Association of Counties and the League of California Cities, and our partners in professional firefighters for their help in pitching in to secure these additional resources. We have also been able to secure out-of-state resources from Utah, Wisconsin, Louisiana, West Virginia, and now Washington. And we're providing resources to support the nearly 43,000 Californians currently under evacuation and more than 500 households in 16 shelters through our California Department of Social Services, our County Office of Emergency Services, the Red Cross, and multiple NGOs and faith-based organizations. Truly a whole of community support response. And although the fires are still burning, The State Operations Center here is working quickly to provide California communities the resources they need to get back in their home as soon and as safe as possible. If you've been evacuated or have lost your home, please first now make an attempt to contact your insurance company and talk to the representative, and then also follow Cal OES and or your county Office of Emergency Services for updates on how to apply for assistance. Local assistance centers have been set up and are open in multiple communities and will continue to be open in the coming days. In several counties, we are also already removing household hazardous waste through our Department of Toxic Substance Control in multiple counties due to the fires, which is really the first stage in being able to remove hazardous materials out of these communities and the first stage in getting owners back onto their property. There are also a number of local, state, and federal teams that are out doing damage assessments and documenting the extent of those losses so that we can ensure that all that information continues to get into the federal government and amplify the federal aid requests that we've made. And late last week, we announced the governor providing millions of dollars in California Disaster Assistance Act public assistance advance funding to Plumas and Alpine counties to help balance the operational and financial impacts the fires have caused to those counties. This advance that's called the California Disaster Assistance Act funding is provided through the governor, provides financial assistance from the state for costs incurred by those local governments because of the disaster event and due to the magnitude of the damage that has sustained in the counties that I had mentioned. In this case, it's Plumas County due to the Dixie Fire and Alpine due to the Tamarack Fire. Let me just close by saying that we all have to do our part to be prepared. It's important that you all have a family plan. Prepare with a go bag with some supplies. Listen to local and state officials. These fires are still burning in many parts of the state. If you are told to evacuate, don't wait, evacuate. This is very important. Material items can be replaced, but your life cannot. We know that more work lies ahead, and I want to just unbelievably thank the dedicated men and women, the public, private, non-governmental organizations, the volunteers, all responders for continuing their service to the people of California. And I also want to thank all of you, the members of the community, who are doing your part in looking out for each other and working with us through this process. It's truly a one-team, one-fight effort. So I'm going to turn it over to now CAL FIRE Director, Chief Tom Porter, who will begin the briefing on the fires. And then as we get more information, if you have questions associated with health-related or COVID-related, we also have representatives from our Health and Human Services Agency here today. So, Chief Porter.
Well, thank you, Director Ghilarducci. And again, my name's Tom Porter. I am Director of CAL FIRE. And I want to reiterate the heartfelt thank you for all of the support. The mutual aid system is alive and well, and we as state and federal fire agencies that are in command of most of these fires, we couldn't do it without the support of our local government partners, and that comes from large jurisdictions as well as small, even just local fire districts. We have people from all corners of the state and out of state, as Director Ghilarducci mentioned, that are adding to this firefight and this siege that we're in. And we couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much, and thank all of you who have authorized sending those resources from your districts. We know it's a difficult thing to do, particularly in the environment we're in, and dealing with the health emergencies that we all are as well. So beyond what's just happening in fires, and I'll get to the fires in a moment, I think it's appropriate at this point to give you kind of a 7-day outlook, what we're looking at statewide, and we do this on a daily basis, and we look at today, 3 days, 7 days out. For 7 days out, we're looking at conditions in the south part of the state that are low to moderate as far as risk for new, large, damaging fires. That is very good news for us. Very, very good news. In the north part of the state, we're looking at moderate conditions, again, for new large fires. That doesn't change the fact that we have many large damaging fires that are ongoing, particularly in the north part of the state, and they're going to continue to grow and get bigger. But it does allow for us to move resources, to surge resources from the south part of the state and from some of the areas where we're not having as much activity into the fires to protect lives and property and the environment. So that's what we're doing. We're doing that in a very big way, all agencies included, working between the different fires and moving resources around there as well. And we're right now tracking the big fires, the river complex in the far north part of the state, the Antelope Fire, the Monument and McFarland fires just north and west of Reading that have been vexing to some of the small communities in those areas. The Dixie Fire, which is now the #2 fire in priority for new additional resources and additional efforts that we can put to that fire. It is the second largest fire in California's history, the 14th most damaging fire in California's history. The Calder Fire, a little bit further south in El Dorado County, just outside of Sacramento here, is now the #1 priority in the nation for fires to get additional and new resources that are coming available. It is that important. It is at the door, knocking on the door to the Lake Tahoe Basin. We have all efforts in place to keep it out of the basin, but we do need to also be aware that that is a possibility based on the way the fires have been burning and the concerns that we've been living in all of these other fires and their growth. Further south, the Walker Fire and French fires in Tulare and Kern counties are still out on the landscape. They're still growing. We're putting resources there to try and keep those out of communities, in particular the French fire near Lake Isabella. And all of these fires have their own specific needs, whether it's crews, bulldozers, engines, aircraft of some sort. All of those things are needed in different combinations. And like I said before, we're working to move the resources across the landscape and to the fires that need the particular resources in the most appropriate way and to meet those needs. So with this resource movement, we're also working to make sure that we're resetting and getting our people home and rested so we can sustain this fight. This is a marathon. Right now, we're at about the middle point of our peak season for need for resources and expectation of large and damaging fires. As I said, the next 7 days we're looking good in the south. That could change 7 days from now, and we could be very much in a different scenario where we're starting to see dry conditions in the south, more need for resources in the south, and so we're making sure that we're resetting those firefighters and making sure that local governments are getting their firefighters back, getting them healthy, ready to go on and continue the fight into the deep fall. These are our days. This is what we do. Every year, we need to be ready for this type of activity. Last year was indicative of what we're seeing this year. We're actually on pace and ahead of pace this year from where we were to date last year. Today, we are almost 3 times the number of acres burned in California over our 5-year average. Almost 3 times over. A lot of acreage is burning. Fires are burning in ways that nobody has seen before. Yes, I keep saying that. You keep hearing that. But it is absolutely true. Mother Nature is in control, and we are doing everything we can to save your lives and property. So Director Ghilarducci mentioned something that is absolutely critical. You need to be ready to go. Every Californian needs to be ready. You need a go bag. You need your important papers, your medications, those things ready. We haven't seen the ground shake. but you need it just the same in the event of an earthquake. Get that stuff ready. Every single Californian, this is my charge to you. Be ready for the emergency that's coming to your doorstep at the least appropriate time or the least expected time. Be ready. Be ready now. And when it's time to go, just go. With that, I'm going to turn over the mic to Tony Scardina, Deputy Regional Forester for the U.S. Forest Service, Region 5.
Thanks, Chief Porter. Good afternoon. As others mentioned, obviously our thoughts are with impacted communities, those who are evacuated, those who've lost their homes, and us all working together to help them recover in that process. So just thinking of folks right now across California. I'll try not to repeat things that Chief Porter mentioned, but give you a little bit more of the national picture. We remain currently at preparedness level 5. That is the highest level, 1 through 5. 5 meaning lots of large fire activity. We currently have over 100 large fires across the western United States as well as northern Minnesota. And in northern California, we are also at preparedness level 5. That preparedness level 5 was triggered on July 14th. That is the third time in 20 years that has ever occurred, if it gives you a sign of the type of fire conditions, the type of fire activity across the West that we're seeing. We also have 23,000 firefighters out on the line across the country right now, in addition to the 13,000 firefighters that we have on the ground in California. Right now, there are 47 federal incident command teams. They are all either deployed to a fire or on their rest periods. That's happened 2 years in a row. That's not a usual thing. That is how stretched resources are. That's how much large fire activity we have. And that is not a condition we like to be in either, because if there's a new fire start and we need a team to help manage that fire, we struggle with resources in that situation. So again, just the uniqueness and historic nature of these fire conditions are obviously present. The Dixie Fire, as we mentioned, being the number 2 priority fire in the state right now, its perimeter is 500 miles around that fire, if it gives you an idea of the size and magnitude of the fire activity, fire behavior that we're seeing. 50,000 acre fire years ago was normal, and now we're seeing them get much, much larger and much more difficult to damage. Our priorities will remain around life first and protecting people, infrastructure and property, and then resources. Right now, we have 9 active large fires going on in the state that we are working with our state and local partners on. And as Tom mentioned, we are surging resources, not only within the state, but other parts of the country to those priority fires to try and catch them with the favorable conditions that we have over the next several days. The other thing that's unique is we've been able to work with our local partners as well to bring nighttime helicopter operations to the Calder fire. We've been doing that in Southern California since 2013 and now have been able to expand that capability, utilize that nighttime operation to help us catch them during conditions in the nighttime when things at times are a little bit more favorable, and really want to thank our local government partners and others who help bring that capability to bear. Today, or last night, we decided to close 9 national forests in Northern California. That came shortly after the Calder fire when the El Dorado decided to close for public safety. We decided to do the same for the forest in Northern California. And the primary reasons for that is when you look at the conditions, the strained resources that we have, we want to keep people out of the way. We can think about events like last year on the Creek Fire with over 200 people entrapped. We had more than one scenario like that last year. It's not a decision we take lightly. It has a lot of impact on people that love recreate on national forests, hunters and others, and we understand that. But we also have to, one, focus on public safety and also firefighter safety. When we're having to save people in those situations, which is our responsibility collectively, it also detracts from the firefight. And so our goal is to evaluate that over the next 2 weeks, get through the Labor Day weekend, hopefully reopen on September 6th, and that's going to be based on hopefully resources being freed up. One thing that is helping is, one, favorable weather to some extent, and we're also seeing parts of the country like the Northern Rockies, southern Utah, getting some moisture. So our hope is during that break period of 2 weeks, we see more federal teams available, more resources available that we can bring and feel like we're in a better position to manage incidents, manage new starts, and keep the public safe. Because right now, a new start is problematic in many ways with strained resources that we have. So we'll continue to communicate openly with the public on that, about our evaluation and when we may change that decision. And finally, as others mentioned, I have to continue to thank our firefighters on the ground. They've been going at it for more than 2 months straight and doing very difficult work on a daily basis. The other folks we want to recognize is our support personnel, the people in our dispatch centers, the people that are getting food to the line. They're people that we don't talk about a lot, but they are critical to the firefighting mission, and just want to recognize all those people who are truly helping the first responders on the ground. I'll now pass it over to Major General David Baldwin with the Cal Guard.
Thanks, Tony. I am Dave Baldwin with the Cal Guard. We currently have 1,592 personnel supporting emergency operations throughout the state. This includes 910 soldiers, airmen, and sailors from 7 states, plus the Cal Guard and the Air Force Reserve, engaged in wildfire fighting operations and support. We're flying 11 military helicopters that are doing both water bucket operations and medical evacuation support. We have 7 Air Force air tankers that are in the Air National Guard and the Air Force Reserve that are flying retardant missions operations. They flew 31 sorties yesterday, and they were hammering the Calder fire yesterday pretty hard. We expect that number to go up to 8 aircraft available, which is all 8 of those systems available in the United States will be deployed here in California starting tomorrow. In addition, we continue to have 25 Type 1 and Type 2 hand crews deployed on fires working in the state, and we're preparing to mobilize more soldiers from both the active Army and the Cal Guard in order to meet the demands for mainly Type 2 hand crews. We have 55 military police members continuing to support the Plumas County Sheriff on the Dixie Fire, manning 9 traffic control points. And we're also providing logistics support to CAL FIRE in the form of 6 fuel tankers, and we just mobilized a warehouse support team to assist them with moving more commodities up to the fire bases that are working out of the CAL FIRE warehouses in Dixon, California. We're posturing to mobilize and make ready additional support from the Cal Guard, and we're continuing to work with our partners both in the active component, the Department of Defense, and the other states and territories that have a National Guard should the need arise that we have to bring additional capability in. And I'll be followed by Assistant Commissioner Ryan Okashima from the California Highway Patrol.
Thank you, General Baldwin. Appreciate it. The first thing I'd like to do is express our concern as the California Highway Patrol to those who have lost either a business, their homes, been evacuated from their houses. We realize that it's a trying time, but very necessary for us to combat these fires and to save lives, in essence. I'd like to express my appreciation to all of our public safety partners that we've been working with at the beginning of these fires, and we will continue to do so through the remainder of the fire season as we do every year. The California Highway Patrol has been assisting in many ways, primarily with traffic safety, blocking roads. We've been assisting with evacuations with our other allied agency and law enforcement partners. We've also stepped up our patrols throughout the neighborhoods to try and ensure looting does not occur within the communities that have already been evacuated, which is a big concern for us. And like others have already mentioned before me, please, if you get the word that you need to evacuate, please evacuate. Don't hesitate. Evacuate. Please stay out of the area until you receive the order to repopulate that area. It's very important. Again, as I mentioned, law enforcement is patrolling evacuated areas, and it is a crime to enter those areas before you're told to reenter. So please remain outside that area. And again, as I mentioned previously, we stand ready to provide any assistance necessary to mitigate what's the fires going on through the entire state. So with that, I will turn this over to Dr. Aragon. He's the director of the California Public Health. Dr. Aragon.
Good afternoon. So we are going through some very difficult times now with the air quality. When you have these fires, And the wildfire smoke, that impacts people hundreds of miles away. It impacts the whole state. It impacts regions of the country. So being careful about what we do about air quality is really, really critical. We want people to know that if they're in an area that's being impacted by wildfire smoke, is to stay indoors. If you have to be outdoors and you're somebody that has a physical condition, a respiratory condition, a cardiovascular condition, you should decrease your physical activity. And if you have to be outdoors, you should wear an N95 respirator. You want to protect your lungs against those small particles. Wildfire smoke interacts with COVID in two important ways. One is through the biology of the fine particulates that's going to go into the lung, cause inflammation, and exacerbate people who have underlying medical conditions. So if they get infected, they're more likely to express that infection because they're more likely to become sick. That's first of all. Second, it also impacts behavior in the community because when the air quality is poor outside, what do people do? Well, what I just asked you to do, which is to go indoors, and we know the highest risk for transmission of COVID is indoors. So it really gives us this challenge that we have. We want you to be indoors, yet there's more COVID transmitted when you're indoors. And so what can you do is to really pay attention to the situation you're in. If you feel comfortable wearing a mask outside to protect yourself from smoke, please, when you're indoors, wear a mask because it's going to protect you and others. The other thing I want to let everybody know is that in order for us to monitor no matter where you are in California, you can go online and download the EPA Air Now app. EPA Air Now app. Download it. You put in the zip code and you can check the air quality, the AQI, the air quality index in that area, and it'll tell you what to do next. It's really important. You should check it every day. I check it every morning, and I check it throughout the day. So I have situational awareness about what's happening. And the trick with PM 2.5s is that oftentimes the air may look fine, but they're so tiny that you may not know that the air quality is very poor. So please do that, and that will go a long way to help you protect yourself, your families, and your communities. Thank you.
Okay, so you can see from the briefing today that this is an all-hands-on-deck whole of community response. All these agencies that have briefed you all coming together, and it's a broader, just not beyond these agencies. It's multiple individuals and organizations working and rowing in the same directions. Nothing is linear about these events, so we are continually pivoting to make sure that we have enough resources, that we have enough focus, and we're taking care of the tasks at hand. So with that, happy to open it up for any questions you may have.
Sure. What are the new or different tactics you guys are using to control the Calder fire at this moment?
So I'm going to throw this back. There aren't a lot of new tactics, I'm just going to say. Tactics are very simple. Put a line around a fire, put the fire out. Use of aircraft slows fire so that we can get boots on the ground and put those fires out. One thing that we've seen this week, and last week when we talked, I did mention that it's been very difficult to get aircraft in the air because of the inversion and how smoky it's been over all of the fires. That has been with us this week as well, up until yesterday. And so on the Calder specifically, we did bring up some additional, beyond what the Forest Service already has available, additional night flying capable aircraft from Orange County, LA County, Ventura in cooperation with Southern California Edison. Those three aircraft have been here for the last several days, and last night was the first night that they were that we had clear enough air where it was safe enough to fly them. They did fly. They flew late into the evening, and so as far as new resources available, that is the only new resource that's been available, different in Northern California than what we've used before. And it was used effectively last night. It was helpful in keeping some of the fire in check in and around that west side of the fire, where we're concerned about the fire coming back into places like Pollock Pines and others. So we did use that resource last night and are hopeful to continue to build that program into the future.
Yes, sir.
Also for Chief Porter, did you say the Calder fire is the #1 priority fire in the nation or in the state?
I am going to look to my federal. It is in the nation, and remember, almost all of the fires we're talking about are federal in unified command with Cal Fire, but they're federal fires, and this is the #1 in the nation. It is also in California.
And if you don't mind sort of amplifying your degree of concern about the Tahoe Basin?
What I'm concerned about related to the Tahoe Basin is what we've seen with fire growth this year in particular, but also last year. So out of the abundance of caution, we are looking at large areas, maybe well beyond what we normally would look at for identifying areas of opportunity to catch fires. And so I personally don't believe the fire is going to get into the basin proper, but I could be born wrong by that. The weather has outstripped, and Mother Nature has taken over and taken fires like the Dixie to places that I never thought was possible.
To Dr. Aragon's point a few minutes ago about the impact of wildfire smoke on COVID activity, is the state surging or planning to surge any COVID resources to areas that are seeing dense quantities of smoke, such as testing or other resources?
So there's a couple of things happening. One is there is a lot of attention happening where the fires are occurring, because we're monitoring the community, monitoring the facilities, making sure that all the public health and medical resources are available to take care of patients. And then, of course, we are having a surge of COVID in California. Fortunately, the rates are starting to slow down, so that's great news. And one of the challenges we have is when we have a COVID surge, especially when it impacts the hospital beds and the ICU beds, it impacts care for other persons who may not have COVID but may be impacted. For example, let's say somebody with heart disease, asthma, COPD, somebody who is impacted by the fire and then goes to a hospital that may be full of COVID patients. So it is an all community effort. We're going to be in this for a long time. One of the things that we can do as Californians to make sure our hospitals are available is to please get vaccinated. It takes several weeks to get that your immunity up, and that'll really help protect the hospital beds so that they're available for everybody, including people who have just smoke-related injuries.
I may add that at evacuation centers, if you're either inside or outside, masks are made available to you, and there are opportunities for vaccinations at these sites as well, as we are working with the counties and our public health department. So, but the key thing is that the masks are provided for you, PPE. So please partake in that and utilize that, whether you're inside or outside. Yes, sir.
Question for Tony. I think you said last week, if I'm not mistaken, that 65% of your 10,000 or so firefighters are in California. Is that number still roughly accurate, or?
Yeah, it's leveled out a little bit. Roughly, there's 23,000 deployed nationally. 13,000 of those are in California. So we're still in that 60 percentile, come down a little bit. And as I said, we're seeing relief in some of those other geographic areas, and that surge of resources, some of it's en route already, others is being coordinated. So we're still around 60%, 65%.
weeks ago, Secretary Vilsack said, we're going to get you more boots on the ground, California. And obviously that was predicated in many ways on the infrastructure bill passing. What is sort of the level of stretched thinness? I know that's not very articulate. That the Forest Service is at right now, and just how bad are things?
Well, I mean, we continue to look at both needs in terms of fire suppression as well as doing that land management work. And so we know that we have to increase resources to do some of that work to get forests back in healthy conditions so we can get to the point of reducing catastrophic wildfire. And on the suppression side, we have those areas like our crews, like our teams, where you've been hearing discussions around firefighter pay and retention. And so I think our goal right now is, one, we have to hold on to the quality leadership and personnel we have, and we've seen steps being taken to do that, because losing our key leadership positions takes years and years to recover from. Then from there, I think it's a larger question with our communities, with our partners, about how do we find that balance? How do we get to that key land management work, and how much do we want to put in those suppression resources? And I don't think there's a perfect equation to that. And there's a lot of need for people to collaborate and get together and figure those things out. Like I said, last year, I think just within the Forest Service in California, $1.3 billion to suppress fires. If we can invest that in that upfront work and putting conditions and communities back in healthy condition and reduce catastrophic fires, hopefully there's a time where we can start focusing more of energy on that versus suppressing fires. So that's the conversation going on right now. That's the type of work within communities and within government agencies that we have to figure out.
This might be a question for both of you guys. But last week we mentioned that the Calder fire is happening in what you guys call the timber basket. Is that sort of one of the factors why the Calder fire is kind of to the point where it is right now, where it's getting progressively worse? What kind of factors are playing into the reason why it's so bad?
Okay, related to my comments about the timber basket last week, but the Calder fire specifically, and kind of the timber production and forest that we all know about and presumably love. We're seeing the Calder fire burning in areas, some of which have burned in the last several years or in the last several decades, but other areas that haven't seen fire in decades. And the dryness, or the relative dryness, of not only what moisture is in the soil, but also what moisture is in the plants and the trees, is making fires in the forest burn in ways that we haven't seen. And so what's happening here and on the Calder, it's not unlike what we saw in the August complex, the North complex, the fire burning from Quincy area all the way down into Oroville. Or this year, the Dixie Fire going the opposite direction from the Feather River Canyon all the way up over through the timber region past Lake Almanor. Fires are difficult to control in a timber environment to start with, but when you have an exceptionally dry forest environment, then spot fires become large before you can put them out, and it spreads fire through the forest in ways that we rarely see, and in the case of this year, last year, have never seen before. So just very, very difficult, and it's also taking a major toll on that resource that we need, our sustainable resource of forest products that are used for building homes and other goods that we need in our society, is being consumed by these fires.
Two more? All good?
All right, so I'll just close by saying something about resources, because I know there's been a lot of questions about it. It's important to note that the effort here did not start from zero and then we had to get to 100 miles an hour. There's been a tremendous effort over the course of the last couple of years to amplify resources throughout the state, including the governor supporting funding to the Cal Guard to increase National Guard hand crews, which we had not had before to the degree that we do. Additional Cal Fire resources and seasonals and hand crews and engines to OES, funding for additional engines to put into the mutual aid system. The truth of the matter is these fires, the conditions that we're facing are climate-driven, fast-moving, super hot, super dry, in a drought, and we're dealing is all in a COVID environment. Have continued to make this challenge, not just a challenge here in California, it's across the Western U.S. Talking to my counterparts from other states, they're all facing similar challenges. And so that's why this effort of collaboration and coordination, bringing all the resources to the table, our robust mutual aid systems in fire and law enforcement, emergency management, all the tools in the tool basket are brought to bear on this. And so I just want to, again, thank all of the effort of all the different resources that are here and the agencies. We couldn't do it without them. With that, thanks for being here today.